So hi, I'm Mark Gilmour. I look after the mobile connectivity solutions team at Colt Technology Services here. I'm based out of the UK. I'm actually based out of my home shed on a very beautiful day in the UK, actually. My role is to look after the propositions looking towards how to utilize the Colt network to really further the 5G era.
Hello, everybody. My name is Richard Piasentin. I'm the Chief Strategy and Chief Marketing Officer for Accedian. My role is very simple. I work with our clients, like Mr. Gilmour here, to understand the challenges that they're going to be facing, not just today, but over the next 3 years. Where's the technology direction going? And then I have the pleasure of coming back into Accedian proper and driving the product and marketing programs to deliver on those requirements. And so I want to say thank you very much to Mr. Gilmour for joining us this morning for this podcast, or joining us for this video cast. We're doing some fantastic work together. Colt is an innovator in the space. They bring a set of assets that are unparalleled to enterprise and metro environments in particular, and they're capitalizing on those assets to really drive innovation in the industry. And we're very proud at Accedian to be participants in that story. So Mark, you and I have talked about this quite often, and there are the traditional sort of GSMA, 3GPP, big, huge, big picture. Here's how 5G is going to solve all the problems in the world. It's kind of my belief, actually, that Colt brings a much more practical and client-focused perspective to 5G and how it can enable your customers. You want to tell us a little bit about how you see it?
Sure. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The history has been that cellular has all been about supporting the mobile broadband customer, the consumer. And I think the real benefit as we move into this 5G era is the opportunity for the enterprise space, or that private cellular sort of space, an opportunity. And Colt has a long and strong history in supporting the enterprise business. But the opportunity then, when we start looking at what's happening with the technology in this next generation of mobile technology, means that there starts to become a different or a lower barrier to entry to allow new entrants to come in, or to come up with some real innovative sort of ways of utilizing the wireless technology for something beyond just mobile broadband use, powering our smartphones or tablets. And I think that's where the real opportunity comes in. From a Colt point of view, we're not a mobile operator, nor do we intend to be. And so our view is, how do we then look at combining those assets that you spoke about in the introduction to enable this real amazing opportunity that comes for the enterprise space by utilizing cellular technology, and in particular the 5G technology, as it starts to move forward. I think that's where the real opportunity comes.
I was very compelled by something you said the last time we were discussing this, and it speaks volumes. My opinion anyway, it speaks volumes about the focus of a company like Colt. You were talking about releasing or unleashing the innovation of your enterprise clients. And you just mentioned lowering barriers to entry. When we think about historical mobile, and even to a certain extent, historical implementations of private cellular, they came with it almost, if you'll excuse the expression, kind of a big brother. The big brother was traditional telecom. And, it was very specific on what it could do and, and how it should be used. A little bit maybe the black box idea. When I've looked at the plans and even the POCs that we're participating in with Colt and your clients, it's really about unleashing the creativity of those enterprises. When I think about Colt capitalizing on its edge compute capability, its dynamic application aware connectivity services, so that regardless of the use case that a end enterprise can come up with, Colt is enabling those technologies, but really to a certain extent, getting out of the way of your enterprise clients and just enabling them to do things that we can't even think about yet. Yeah. Doing that in the construct of a technology, a solid technology basis, an extremely capable set of assets, and a focus on quality. Right? Colt is quality. It's almost the definition of quality. And the focus, even in your POCs, is all about ensuring that your clients, when they are innovating in that infrastructure, have it quality's built in to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think what we're trying to do is we've got this rich history, as I mentioned, of being engaged with our enterprise customers. That's kind of how Colt has grown up as a network and as a business. And so now we've got this amazing connectivity network that spans the globe, but actually has a really hyper local sort of reach. And I think last time we spoke on this, we kind of put these things together, and it was like hyperlocal connectivity combined with edge compute at the sort of flexibility that is offered by a hyperscaler. And we can connect all of those things together, and we do that today with the hyperscalers back up to that hyperscale data center approach. When we talk about enterprises benefiting from cellular, and in particular 5G, then that really comes down towards the edge sort of play. And that's where we then try and bring that innovation together, creating an infrastructure platform, for example, to then build off on those ideas. And you mentioned a couple of the proof of concepts that we're starting to get engaged in, and we're planning towards, and we're doing this year. And they are all about trying to prove not just the technology, but also prove the business use case that comes through. Does it make sense to move to leverage the technology advancements, such as virtualization, such as the one thing I think is really a game changer in 5G is the service-based architecture that allows the technology to be scaled to the right size for the application. You mentioned kind of the big players in this space, where the market has been dominated for the big public mobile networks. They're going to still have their place, absolutely, but the opportunity then lies in new players or scaled down versions of that being able to be used in other applications. We've seen the first of that in the industry 4.0 movement. And, the business case is really being proved there. It's, we're starting to see real applications and productivity gains being made in that space. We're looking at another opportunity in that private engagement outside of industry. So, for example, things such as healthcare or the smart X. So whether that's smart building, smart cities, as we consider the current pandemic situation, the smart office, and that's one that we're really focusing in on a proof of concept that we're involved in right now, in working through what are the use cases for those, and which ones really add value for our customers, which ones do our customers need, and where does that play in? Because the other thing to bear in mind of this is that cellular and 5G won't be the only access technology that'll make sense in these areas. And so it's really about a point of making sense, because ultimately the customer doesn't really care what the technology is on the end. They want the end experience to that point. And we've done a lot of work in that customer experience work.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, Colt's approach, as opposed to telling your customers how to innovate, Colt's approach is to give them the world-class sort of assured technology blocks. Yeah. So that then they can do the work of figuring out, okay, how do I improve either my service to my end clients, my business, my cost of operation, my innovation? It's really about, Colt's perspective anyway, is really about providing those assured blocks of technology, whether it's connectivity services, edge services, prepackaged ORAN environments, assurance services against the different elements to make sure that the enterprise has no barriers to the innovation. And I have to confess, some of the technologies that you guys are bringing into play in some of these POCs really have me personally excited. Not 100% sure I can figure out exactly how Accedian fits into them, but the AR glasses. Well, I can use that as an example, right? AR environments, even in health, whether it's healthcare or generic industry 4.0. Because Colt is taking an assurance and quality perspective first, you have dealt with one of the primary problems that I see in terms of AR applications, just as an example. While it is important to declare the quality of the service and to assure the quality of the service, it's also really important to inform the applications themselves whether or not the service can be conveyed. And building into that POC, you've implemented a platform it happens to be from Accedian, but it's conceptually, you've implemented a platform for assurance so that those applications that are from your third-party partners, from your enterprises themselves, so that those applications can have visibility to the performance that they're providing. That's really important. If you're doing an AR collaboration environment, it's almost as important to say when it's good as it is to say when it should stop.
Yeah,
I know that sounds crazy, but being able to plumb that quality experience directly into the application is so important. And it's just it's just an example. It's just one example, in my opinion anyway, of Colt's approach to the problem, which is really around enabling your clients with the best possible technology solutions and thinking forward about what might potentially be a barrier to success and making sure that Colt eliminates that for its customers.
Yeah, you mentioned what's Accedian's part in that sort of proof of concept, and the interesting part there is that it's partners like yourselves, along with a whole ecosystem that comes together that makes these use cases and makes these opportunities work as a business and as a solution for our customers and as viable businesses for those involved in that. The work that we're doing to secure these use cases and really make sure that they work as a business as well as a technology involves us also working extremely closely with the customer, the end customer in this case, and having a very innovative end customer as well that has that vision to be able to open up these sort of areas. You mentioned a technology in there that was quite, and you mentioned ORAN. You just kind of flicked it in there, and ORAN and the other open sort of technologies are approaches and movements are sort of a part of that overall picture that is enabling these sorts of opportunities to be leveraged, because being able to then have these open interfaces and then scale accordingly, as I mentioned earlier, allows us then to right size the technology and the deployment for the applications, and so it makes the business case so much more easier to make alongside the things that you really want to do in that.
You're 100% right on that, Mark. When I think about the way Colt's going about it, the implementation, and again, it would require someone to understand just how innovative the Colt network and asset infrastructure is. But essentially, the way Colt approaches this problem, you eliminate the barriers to capitalizing on flexible compute, flexible connectivity, flexible assurance, in order to make sure that there are no hard limits. One of the things that is characterized by a lot of, I'll just call them industry-led private cellular exercises, is that there's very distinct walls on what somebody can do, right? We're going to provision this much of this and this much of that, and then try to see if you can make that drive business value. Colt's approach is totally different. Colt has an entire architecture that is oriented around the idea that your customers are in charge of the services that they need, and anything that they acquire from Colt, essentially they acquire in the same flexible manner as the hyperscalers provide compute. But you're doing it across not just direct connectivity services to hyperscalers, that's important, but you're doing it across direct connectivity services and scaling in the edge, as well as we talked about, direct connectivity services around performance, application performance systems in platforms. So you're creating effectively an almost infinitely elastic environment for your customers to innovate in. And that's unique. I haven't seen anybody do it that way. And again, just want to reiterate, Accedian's super proud and excited, me personally, about the opportunity to support you there.
Well, thank you, Richard, because we essentially believe in it. We believe in that approach, and we believe that then gives our customers the opportunity to really leverage the technology to fulfill the needs and requirements that they have. And I suppose the benefit we have is that we can open that up to make use of the best technology for the application or for the use case for the customer needs. And really hone in on that. So yeah, that's the advantage that it is. And as we move through these proof of concepts and trial work that we're doing, we're expecting to see some really quite impressive results come out of it. And
so, Mark, I know you have like this group of super innovators, right? I've had the pleasure of talking with them on a few instances, and I'm always amazed at the things that are kind of running around in their heads about what could be enabled. So is there any particular use case that you've heard of or you've run across that your team's talked about or your customers that's got you most excited? Like the thing that I know it's early days.
Yeah,
putting you on the spot here, but is there something that's got your juices flowing in particular?
Yeah, there actually there's quite a few. There's some that are really out there that are still got a way to go, and we're kind of working on there. There's a somewhat in the holobotics field. Yep. And in the digital twin and enabling that, there's some really innovative technology that we think can have a significant impact on things such as maintenance and preventative maintenance, for example, is one area that we're looking at. But I'm equally, so that's the kind of the fun science fun stuff that's coming. But equally, I'm excited actually by the prospect of really the smart office work that we're doing right now, and tracking through some of the very simple use cases, but really making them work and bringing them to market. That is exciting me equally as much as the kind of the fun science, the future science and the science fun stuff that I think I'll call it that rather than. So there's things happening in that space. I would say that we're kind of focusing more in that area because we think we can make an impact. But there's some great stuff going on in Industry 4.0, for example, and all that. And that's probably the place where the big players are going to fit on the big campus networks on the big industrial scale. It's probably not quite where Colt can offer the most benefit. That's why we're trying to bring this to our enterprise, healthcare, those sort of customers in that. So those sort of things are really exciting.
I can't help but imagine and think and hope to a certain extent. When I think about the fact that, just as an example, Colt's network in the UK. In Colt's network in the UK, you're 2 milliseconds from anywhere.
Yeah, so, on the Colt network, yeah.
Colt network, right? Yeah. So you're 2 milliseconds from anywhere. And for the rest of the audience that may not know that means that you are 5 times. You have 5 times less latency for the most exotic use cases that have been envisioned in industry, right? So let's just put a period at the end of that. Colt's infrastructure is already 5 times better than anything somebody's come up with to date. That means that the concept of edge, even in Colt, is this liquid concept. I mean, you can essentially turn the entire UK into one giant connectivity and compute zone if you chose to. And when I think about this pandemic, I'll be a little bit more cautious on that. But yes, cautious, okay, yeah. But I suppose from a network at the network level, you're absolutely correct. We can do that. We got to add on application latency and all of those sorts of things that come onto it. But yeah, when we really hone in on that, the edge. Where the edge is located, we kind of figure that's anywhere on the Colt network these days. And what and I think about what has this pandemic taught us all, right? This pandemic has actually taken away from all of us the ability to be in the same place. And geography has suddenly become a giant barrier after, 100 years of eliminating geography as a consideration in the collaboration and innovation of people. Suddenly it became really near and present for all of us. And I think about the opportunity for Colt to eliminate, no matter what happens now and going forward, the construct that says, in order for people to collaborate together, they actually have to be in the same place. Now, there are technology barriers to making it so that our, perception of environments, again, maybe being a little science fiction-y for a second, you talked about holography and holobotics, digital twins, right? I see Colt really leading a drive in the industry for enterprise specifically around recreating the digital twin of the environments that people are used to going to so that they can be experienced. And experienced no matter where they are, whether you're in your shed, I'm in my bunker in Colorado, okay? You and I could be we could meet on the Colt network in the coffee shop downstairs at the bottom of the Colt house and do what we would do. We would be working at a virtual table. We would be drawing on a virtual napkin, if you will. And that's enabled by a whole ton of exotic technologies. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not tomorrow stuff, but that's the path that you're on. And
I was going to say it's a path. It's definitely a path that we're on. And one of the use cases in the smart office is POC is about collaboration areas and how that will develop the use of VR and AR combined with those collaboration areas, and what are the requirements, and where some of the things that we're looking at is where does that compute need to be housed? What is the disaggregation? What is the optimal disaggregation of the equipment to be able to do that? One of the parts where then Accedian comes in is that service assurance layer over the top there to be able to give us that sort of feedback that then gives back to the customer that end goal of saying, here's your service. You're not really bothered about what's going on at the network or the technology layer, but here is the service, and these are the sort of level of agreement, the service level agreements that it's matching, and we can guarantee, we can assure that. In that, that's what becomes part of it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, at its most basic level, although. And, they say that, real innovation comes out of simplicity that abstracts complexity, right? At the highest possible level, if we just hold in our minds for a second the idea of that virtual coffee shop that you and I would be drawing in both of our visual fields, as an example, there would be a green dot or a red dot. And that green dot or that red dot tells us everything we need to know about whether or not our digital twin experience is operating the way we need it to. And it is so simple. And yet to execute the green or the red dot takes a whole ton of technology led by Colt, provided by a group of companies, all collaborating so that you can provide those rock solid experiences that are going to be required for the innovation that we're talking about.